Well, good evening, everyone. Hi. Thank you all for coming. I am Leila, and the story I'm performing is a true story about my life, how I overcame my cerebral palsy and bullying. A little girl, about 6 or 7 years of age, floats above the schoolyard at recess. She is dressed in bright, beautiful clothes that masks the wraps and straps that she wears on her body. However, the only thing that the outfit doesn't hide are the little girl's braces, hot pink crutches, and telltale limp. The girl is walking around, seeming to float on air, free as a bird, when someone pushes her to the ground and laughs. All the little girl's joy is deflated like a balloon as she lies on the ground. Above her, the person who has pushed her taunts and continues to laugh. Slowly, the girl stands up on her shaky legs and walks away in sadness. She is ready to cry, her tears falling like the rain. However, no one comforts her. You probably wonder by now, who is this girl that you're talking about? My name is Leila Purky, and I was and am that girl. People haven't always understood me since I was big enough to go to school. You see, I have spastic diplegia cerebral palsy, and it's a condition where my legs, particularly my hamstrings and ankles, get really tight. And one thing I have to do to help them is wear braces on my legs. Also, CP causes me to walk with what looks like a limp, deeming me retarded by uneducated and rude people who do not know what they are saying. And because of the way I was born, I have endured countless numbers of bullying. However, I have risen above it. During my childhood, I had to move from Evanston, Illinois to another city in the state called Lake Forest. There, I was thrust into one of the elementary public schools. Placing me in such an environment was like a carrot being grown in a patch of cabbages. I was the carrot, and the rest of the people were the cabbages. In my public elementary school, there were many times where I was bullied. For example, there was this one boy, Tommy, who would constantly go out of his way to bully me, and he did so when no one seemed to be watching. Tommy would come up to me and say straight to my face that he hated me, and he would call me all kinds of awful names. However, there was one name and statement that I would never forget. He called me a poor little sucker who couldn't walk. When I heard that statement, I just broke down crying. The bullying continued to happen. In 3rd grade, there was this other boy, Derek, who was even worse than Tommy. Like him, Derek would go out of his way to bully me, but he did so with verbal and physical abuse. He even did that to me when I accidentally happened to look his way, or I happened to be near him. One of the things Derek did to me was push me down. One incident happened when I was in the gym. I was singing a song and enjoying myself, and Derek yelled, "Leila, stop singing!" I didn't listen though, because I didn't care what that bully thought of me. However, my efforts to ignore Derek were in vain. Seeing me, Derek charged, and shrieking, I ran as fast as my little legs could carry me, but Derek was faster than I. With brute force, the bully pushed me to the ground. My fall seemed to look like I was sliding across the gym. However, that did not break my spirit. However, I will never forget the day when Derek pushed me into a chain link fence. I was at recess, minding my own P's and Q's, when suddenly I saw the bully. Derek charged, and he slammed me into the nearby fence. A sharp pain came to my left cheek, and I started bawling. This was beyond the last straw, and the boy was removed from the school the very next day. Through all of this, my mom endured her own type of bullying. Mothers of all the typical kids would stare coldly and pitifully at her, and they would never ask her if I'd like to come over for a play date, instead, Mom did all the organizing and calling, asking them if their child would come to my house to play with me. Although the mothers said yes, they still found other ways to bully Mom. They excluded her from their conversations, and when promised that they'd call her back, a call never came. Mom had had enough of seeing me being harassed for ICP, and she had had enough of me being bullied in her own way. So she put me in a private school for kids with learning disabilities. The school Cove was very accepting of me, and I quickly made friends, no longer feeling invisible. My mom wasn't being bullied anymore either. However, there were still some incidents where I continued to be bullied. Thus, my second year at Cove, 5th grade, became a mini hell for me. In 5th grade, a group of bullies in my class came to power, so to speak. Their names were Missy, Ben, and Peter, and they did all kinds of awful things to me. Bullying incidents ranged from copying everything I said, stealing my stuff, mocking me, and even one of the bullies went so far as to, I kid you not, dump a worm in my lap at recess. However, I had a ton of friends who would stick up for me and be by my side. After 5th grade, the bullying never happened again at Cove. I was free! However, during my 9th grade year at Cove, I was still there, remaining there until my graduation. My parents decided that I should try one class at the Lake Forest Public High School, and that meant going into a crowd of typical kids. It was there again that I felt invisible, much to my great dismay. There were a couple small incidents of bullying, but there was one that I would never forget. You see, I'd taken a ceramics class that I loved, and there was this girl, Sienna, who was in that class. I seemed to like her, and she seemed to like me, and every morning I waited for her to come to class so we could work on our art projects, and we even made one together. However, there was just one problem. Sienna talked to me as if I were a puppy, using a high-pitched, squeaky voice. Hi, Leila! Oh, it's so good to hear that you are doing well! Yes, I'm on Facebook. You too? That was how Sienna would talk. At first, I didn't think much of this, but as time went on, I began to feel really uncomfortable. I was worried to tell anyone though, because I was wondering what the reactions might be. I was also afraid to stand up to Sienna. One day, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I told my mom while I sobbed violently, and my mom thought of me dropping the ceramics class. Even though both of my parents were in for the decision to let me go to the Lake Forest High School, my mom was still reluctant to let me go. But when asked if I wanted to drop the class, I said no. After all, I wasn't going to let a bully stop me from coming to class. I had been treated as if I were invisible for way too long, and I wasn't going to tolerate it anymore. Fast forward to today. I am a freshman in college and have a whole group of friends, both typical and what my mom and I call differently abled. I enjoy lots of things that a normal young lady would, such as going to the mall with friends, watching movies, going on dates with my boyfriend, getting my nails done, and so on. Just because I have CP doesn't mean I cannot do all these things, and that's even if I get looks, stares, and insults. She is a tall, young, compassionate, and beautiful young lady. This woman is dressed in bright clothing that no longer have to hide the wraps and straps that she wears on her body, for she doesn't need them anymore. She doesn't walk with any hot pink crutches, but she sometimes needs a simple cane to help her get around. However, the young lady's clothes do not hide the braces, but she doesn't need to wear them anymore. All the time. But when this woman dons the braces, she stands proud amongst the occasional stares and insults. You are probably wondering by now, who is this girl that you are talking about? My name is Leila Purky, and I am that girl. Thank you.